Hello, this is Sarah Brosh. Welcome back to my channel. So I want to do a video about Yale Law School professor Amy Chua, who was very recently in the news, and she basically is being subjected to a smear campaign by Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken, who also subjected me to a smear campaign, or at the very least refused to help me because I was being subjected to a smear campaign by a number of Yale Law School professors, particularly those who are members of the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School, including Monica Bell and Veshla Weaver, and the co-directors of the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School. One is my former advisor, Tom Tyler, the father of procedural justice, and the other is Tracy Mears, both of whom were on Barack Obama's 21st Century Policing Task Force. And so and Monica Bell, of course, she smeared me, defamed me, knowingly defamed me. She knew me. I worked with her briefly, very briefly, but still she knew me. She knew me as a Justice Collaboratory member. She knew me as an innocent anti-racism Yale grad student. She knew me as a civil rights attorney. So she absolutely knew that she was telling disgusting lies about me, and that she was very likely driving me to suicide and inciting my murder when she defamed me in her piece Anti-Segregation Policing in NYU Law Review. And I let the NYU Law Review know about this, and I also addressed it with Monica Bell herself. And so basically she perpetrated the grossest ethical violation because she knew me and she named me in her article and defamed me in her article, and she had an ethical responsibility to expose the fact that she knew me, she worked with me. So it was like, it's not an innocent mention of a stranger, right, that just happened to make national and international news for some scandalous incident at Yale. No, Monica Bell, Yale Law School professor Monica Bell, knew me. She worked with me at the Justice Collaboratory on implicit bias and racism and policing. Okay, so she knew she was lying about me, and she had an ethical responsibility to reveal in this article meant to be a death threat against me, meant to drive me to suicide, meant to incite my murder, meant to destroy me, meant to destroy my life and my human and civil rights career and my reputation and my livelihood, which it did. This is part of the getting Sarah Brosh killed moral outrage industry, which is so prevalent right now in U.S. law schools. There is a sick woke pathology, a disease so prevalent in U.S. law schools right now. But anyway, so I'm telling you this so that you understand. So of course, Tom Tyler, who was my advisor, he was so thrilled to be my advisor, loved my project that I was working on with him as a social psychologist on the nature of authority and the nature of legitimacy and the nature of the relationship between the two. And so all of these people knew me, worked with me, knew me as a civil rights attorney. So anyway, the reason why I'm telling you this is just to explain how ludicrous, how unethical it was for Heather Gerken, Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken, when I reached out to her and I posted the email that I sent to her on my blog, and I reached out to her and I said, please help me. This is gross professional misconduct on the part of these professors at the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School. Please help me. Please help me save my life and career. And she mocked me and told me that I needed mental health care and refused to help me. And then I said, well, if you're not in a position to help me at Yale Law School, then refer me to the office that is supposed to be addressing the gross professional misconduct of Yale Law School professors, because I would really like to speak with them about what was done to me. And she just ignored me. So that's why I'm telling you all of this. So anyway, and of course, Monica Bell defamed me in the NYU Law Review. She was trying to protect and cover up, probably in particular for Veshla Weaver, a close friend and collaborator of Tracy Mears, she's probably the reason why Tom Tyler eventually threw me over, even though he initially was very supportive and wrote one of my character letters for Yale General Counsel. So, and Veshla Weaver and Chris LeBron are now at Johns Hopkins. Veshla Weaver and Chris LeBron, they defamed me in Vox.com in this just like ridiculous asinine piece that she wrote that she tried to pass off as scholarship. But what they were doing was using me as a proxy to get revenge against Yale for Chris LeBron having been denied tenure. And then Monica Bell defamed me in the NYU Law Review to cover up for Veshla Weaver and protect Veshla Weaver, and then just to protect the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School in general. And I'm sure Tom Tyler threw me over because Tracy Mears told him to after I started publicly denouncing Veshla Weaver and Chris LeBron for what they had done to me. So just insanely unethical, unprofessional misconduct on the part of these Yale Law School professors, which is why I reached out to Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken. So anyway, Amy Chua, I believe that's how she pronounces her last name. I'm not exactly sure, but so Amy Chua. So to try to make a long story short, Amy Chua's husband, also a Yale Law School professor, he is currently not teaching because I believe he was found by the Yale Law School to be guilty in some respect, way, shape, or form of having engaged in sexual misconduct with students. Okay, he denies all charges. I tend to believe him after what was done to me and what was done to me by Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken. My inclination is to believe Amy Chua's husband, and he is a gentleman by the name of Jed Rubenfeld. So what happened was, now Amy Chua is also famous as the Tiger Mom. She wrote this book about, Asian parents being harder on their kids, but the end result is that they achieve great success, and that's what it is to be a Tiger Mom. So anyway, so she's quite famous for having done that. And so she is married to Jed Rubenfeld, who's now not teaching. And so apparently and also she used to arrange law clerks for Supreme Court justices, for federal court judges, and one of those had been Brett Kavanaugh, and she supported Brett Kavanaugh when he was being, grilled during his confirmation hearing. And so when that whole scandal broke, and then so Amy Chua was much berated, decried for having supported Brett Kavanaugh, but then also people said that she basically made inappropriate comments to students when she was arranging law clerkships for them, and told them that Brett Kavanaugh liked his female law clerks to look like models, etc. So I don't know if any of this is true. I tend to believe, Amy Chua, that it's not, after what was done to me and what was done to me by Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken. I tend to believe that it is all a smear campaign. I tend to believe it is all a smear campaign on the part of Yale Law School and on the part of Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken. I do. That's my inclination, obviously, after what I've been through, is to believe Amy Chua and to believe her husband, Jed Rubenfeld. But anyway, so most recently, apparently, the Yale Daily News leaked what was supposed to have been a confidential agreement between Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken and Yale Law School professor Amy Chua about she was restricted, and in particular during the time that her husband was restricted from teaching, she was supposed to be restricted from having parties at her home, which she shares with her husband, parties at her home, drinking with students, etc., etc. And so then there were some allegations that recently that she had parties and had been drinking at her home, and so with students, and so this was leaked to the Yale Daily News, and apparently also Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken was saying that now Amy Chua can no longer be a small group instructor. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but she was stripped of some teaching assignment that she had to be a small group instructor, whatever that means exactly. But anyway, so and obviously Amy Chua she denies all of these allegations, and she was extremely upset that the confidential agreement between herself and Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken had been leaked to the Yale Daily News. And so she wrote a letter which has been widely, published, just denying all allegations and saying that what she had done is that, students had come to her, in particular Asian students and Asian American students had come to her and were very upset. They had experienced incidents of racism, were very upset about the current, political climate and the wave of hate crimes against Asian Americans, etc., and that she had them to her home, just to comfort them and to console them and to confer with them and to advise them, and that her husband had not been present, and that it had not been a party or a dinner party or drinking or anything of that nature. So, and I want to say that if the Yale Daily News has a contact in the Yale administration that leaks materials to them, then maybe the Yale Daily News wants to get their hands on the Yale police body camera footage from the Living or Not Being While Black hate crime hoax at Yale. That would be good. Because we know how much the Yale Daily News and all the Yale student groups care about police accountability and transparency, which is why they've been so helpful, and they've filed so many amicus briefs on my behalf to make sure that I can get a hold of that body camera footage, which my wonderful attorneys at Randazza Legal Group are in court right now fighting for, and they just submitted an absolutely fantastic brief, which I posted on my blog. But anyway, so long story short, I don't want this video to get too long, but I just want to make clear that I believe Amy Chua. I'm happy to help her expose Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken for the lying bigot and fraud that she is. I think Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken should resign in abject shame for what she did to me. I think Yale Law School Dean Heather Gerken should resign in abject shame for what she's doing to Amy Chua. I think she's sick and evil and a lying bigot and a fraud and a charlatan, and she's a joke. I think she's a joke as a Yale Law School dean, as a professor, as an attorney. I think she's a joke, and she should just resign in abject shame and make a public apology to both myself and to Amy Chua. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I don't want this to get too long. But anyway, so thank you so much for everything. I love you all so much, and I'll have all of my fundraising links below. Please donate to my legal funds so I can get my wonderful attorneys at Randazza Legal Group paid for all of their great work to restore due process and equal protection at Yale and Smith College and everywhere. All right, thank you so much. Take care.